All right. So in the last session, we have discussed about the introduction of your role, and I have been, I think, I shared with you the responsibilities of a senior finance manager and what the CIMA is expecting from you. Okay, you have to read through it. That's very important because the questions will be coming from there only. 99% of the questions will be there. They won't ask beyond that. Your responsibility. Okay. So today we are starting with the industry. So first is the introduction about the pre-scene that we have seen. Now we are talking about the industry, and from the industry we'll go to the Rotomyne company. Okay. Things discussed here may be true for Rotomyne or maybe not. Most of the cases it is, but they have not mentioned that we are talking about Rotomyne now. So if you are taking some facts from here and you want to put into the exam, so you have to be little kind of you can be diplomatic, or you don't need to be very sure that this is the case with us, because this is a industry thing which may be same for us or which may be not. For example, here they have given batteries are accounting almost 70%, but that might not be the case with us. We might get only 60% from batteries. Okay, so let's start. Lithium is a chemical element and alkali element designate ally on the periodic table of the elements. It is used in the manufacture of variety of products, including. One more thing here is we don't need to remember a lot of things. It is for the understanding, because when we are at the strategic level, when we are making a strategy for the company, our important responsibility is to know the industry. It is about knowing where we stand in the market. And market means what? Industry. Industry is made up of different companies. Then we have to understand what is the supply chain we are doing in, where it is start, and what is the end consumer using. Like in this case, mining, we are in the start of the supply chain. For example, if it goes to any food item or even cotton kind of clothing and everything, usually the farmer is the starting point of the supply chain. The same thing here, we are the one. But having said that, we should understand who is the end consumer. Like if you're making batteries, who is the end consumer? Individuals who's using electric vehicles, they are the end consumer. So if you understand the entire supply chain, it will be easier for us to set up a strategy. Many a times it will give us an opportunity to do a market development or new product development, because if you want to be in the same industry, we have a lot of expertise in this similar industry. We can just get more and more control in the supply chain. Okay, so the primarily lithium is being used in manufacturing of batteries. That is the major thing. Heat resistance, glass and ceramics. Glass is another thing. Lubricants. Again, this can be used in cars, other automobiles, metal alloys, pharmaceuticals. So these are the major areas where the lithium is used. Apart from that, there might be a lot of other areas which it can be used, or maybe it is used in a very small level. Therefore, it is not mentioned here. So we can do some research. One of the way we can do a product development in our businesses, we just need to sell the lithium, isn't it? So we can, if we can get more options, like for example, we have 5 here. Let's say we have got 5 more options. So straight away, our revenue stream will increase and our risk will reduce. How our risk will reduce? Because we are depending on 5 industries. Now we have 10 industries. So overall, we'll have diversification, isn't it? Simultaneously, we have to see going forward that can we also do one of this? Can we also start making batteries? Can we also start making glass, lubricants, metal alloys, pharmaceuticals? This is also one way to grow. Remember, one thing we have to always think, being a finance person and now part of strategies, what are the ways we can increase the revenue for the business, and what are the ways we can reduce the expenses. So what are the ways of increasing revenue? These are the things. If we start making our own batteries, lubricants, we go into pharmaceuticals. And apart from that, as I said, if we find out new areas where lithium can be used. For example, it was not very commonly used in glass, but now it is being used in a good quantity, especially the double glazed glass. What we have, heat resistance and basically temperature control glass. So there has been a lot of uses, and here we might need the help of R&D, or we can even type with the universities, because this will give an added advantage. Usually companies tie up with the universities because they have a research and development infrastructure, they have research students there, so we don't need to spend a lot of money. If we just do a strategic partnership, it will become easier for us. So just think of this. I have a request for you guys. So when you're reading the Preseen, you can make notes, whatever comes to your mind, because ideas, it's like ideas. If you don't make notes that time and you come back again, we might forget it. Lithium has been used for many years, primarily in the manufacture of glass and in lubricating grease. Recent growth in demand has been driven up by the use of lithium in manufacture of batteries, in particular for electric vehicles. So basically, the demand has increased for batteries and obviously for the electric vehicles. But apart from electric vehicles, also if we see any device, for example, now if we have joined from laptop, mobile, we're using a battery. The use of battery has been increased a lot in warehousing. So in warehousing, we have got like autonomous robots. So they run by batteries. They have a very big risk of health and safety, and employee retention was very difficult. That industry used to have almost 25-30% of staff turnover per year. So they have done automation, and automation was possible because they have to make mobile robots. And mobile we cannot make because, I mean, we cannot make until we don't have proper batteries, isn't it? We cannot plug in electricity and expect it to be mobile. So in a lot of industries, this thing have been used. Even there is a research going on. Can we have airplanes, working on batteries? We have drones working on it. So many new innovation which is coming in the automobile industry, and kind of we can say warehousing, and even in I would say like real estate, a lot of other construction as well. This is coming because of the batteries. One of the reason that can be, lead to a big revolution in a lot of industry is just the batteries. If we have a powerful battery, the things will change. For example, now the way electric vehicles should see the demand, that is not that good. One of the reason is, I mean, it's growing, but still it's not that high because of the charging station, because we don't have easily available charging station. And second reason is, even if we have, it will take hours. Like if you are using a petrol vehicle, you can just fill in 5 minutes and go. But here you have to wait for 4 hours, 6 hours, even 8 hours. So people don't like that. But imagine we get a super battery where it is being charged in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. It will be very cost efficient and very good for environment. So if we get into a batteries, if we are just making a battery called super battery, something like this is Tesla already working on it. They want to make a alpha battery, something they have named. They want to make it like almost 1,000 times powerful than the current batteries. So if that happens, that will bring revolution. So we have to maintain a close relationship with this kind of manufacturer, or if we think at Rotomyne we can be part of it, then we can also invest in it, and this will be a very good growth opportunity. Then at the same time, we have to see, like, which other industry we can move in. A typical electric car battery requires 12 kgs of lithium. The metal is also used in most of the rechargeable batteries used in consumer electronics such as mobile phones, tablets, so many things we have nowadays. So one of the problem here, maybe they have discussed later on also, when we use these batteries in mobile phones, tablets, especially low grade or low quality batteries, what is happening? That life is very small, and it is creating a lot of waste, and it is kind of environmental waste. It's not like any normal waste that people can just put into recycling. So recycling is a challenge again. So we have to see again what we can do for recycling. It can be a business opportunity for Rotomyne again. What we'll do, if we are, let's say we are not manufacturing. If we manufacture, that's even better. But even if we don't want to go into manufacturing because of our experience in that, we can at least think of starting a recycling business, recycling of the batteries. So that will improve our reputation, our showcase our values in terms of in front of stakeholders that we are doing good for the environment. At the same time, that will increase our profits. What do you think? Does recycling can be an option? Okay. Lithium-ion batteries store a significant amount of energy in relatively small space. The lead-acid batteries, which have been used for many years to power the starter motor and other electrical components in IC combustion engines, can store only 30 watts of electricity per liter of space. A lithium-ion batteries can store 250 watt hours in the same space. So that is the difference, However, there is a risk. I mean, the probability is low, but still we can have some other components which can be used in instead of this. Instead of 250 watt, maybe that uh, material can give us maybe 500 watt. So again, we have to come back to research and development. If the market, the industry gets some other material which is cheaper or which is more effective, immediately they will switch, even if they don't want to, because here we cannot expect our clients to be with us for a longer time, even if they want to. Reason being is they are bigger company, most of them will be listed themselves, so they'll have a lot of pressure from their stakeholders to take actions which is in the best interest of the business. Global demand for lithium carbonate was 500,000 tons in 2021. Annual demand has been predicted to increase to 4 million tons by 2030. If you see, it is just, multiplying. So when the market grows, so there is a lot of advantages, especially for companies like us, which is already, registered in the market. However, there can be some risk. What is the major risk? Risk can be, as we just discussed, that we can go and start manufacturing of batteries. There might be a risk that our customer, our client, might start doing the mining. And obviously, being such a big company, they'll not start organic. They will try to acquire one of the business in the industry. You might think, license is a risk and all. So they don't need to do all of that. They'll just acquire one business which has all the licenses, all the expertise, and they will take control over the business. So you can remember that, or maybe note it down. This might be one question. There might be a question, either Rotomyne is going to acquire some battery manufacturer, or a battery manufacturer can come and acquire us. Because there is a lot of synergy which can be created by that, especially looking at the demand. Are you guys getting the point?
Yes, Misbah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just was thinking,
Yeah.
as we see a trend of lead acid batteries going down, do you think it's a potential business opportunity of recycling only lead acid batteries, because maybe people would have invested and now switching into lithium ion?
You're saying we should recycle that batteries?
I mean, like when you were actually pointing out could be a potential business opportunity for Rotomyne, especially on the recycling sort of a business. Do you think they're going to achieve more from a lead acid batteries recycling or the similar battery of lithium ion? Because lead acid anyways is draining down of the market. So people will try and switch. So it will be more profitable for Rotomyne because everyone will be switching and then they need somebody to recycle those, isn't it? And vis-a-vis, a lithium ion is something new which is gaining its momentum. And maybe I'm too early to say this, but then probably recycling business of lithium ion could be limited in the first place for the first few years, I suppose.
I mean, we have to see the exact numbers, but I believe lithium ion is already, in a mature stage, and
Mhm.
whereas this other option is coming.
So
So
maybe
in
it's a
that
history
other
now.
option, if we
Sorry.
recycle and we are just making the same batteries, the demand of that is going down, because
Mm.
you can see the difference between 30 watts
Mm.
and 250 watts.
Yeah.
It's a very massive.
So maybe we don't have a breakup right now. Probably we can do in research is that how much is the component of lead ion versus lithium ion currently in the market, right? Because as you're saying, and I duly agree that everyone is now using lithium ion, like small space, bigger life. I think that suppose I don't think so. Lead ion is anymore existing in this current scenario. If we are taking it as a real example. So
Right.
could be that it is not dried down completely from the market, but the component of lithium ion has gained momentum over the last few years.
Right, right. As we have
So
mentioned, it has been used for many years. So it might be there, but in a very small scale. So if we get some number and data,
yeah,
definitely we can suggest on that.
yeah.
But just one point on that. Do you think the lead acid battery will go out completely? Because, okay, lithium is an option, but it could be an option only in a country where you have mining facilities, because there are, various part of the world. Setting up a mining is not an easy and cheap option anyways. In those part of the world, would it change drastically rather than, maybe it will take number of years? Because I don't think there are a lot of mining for lithium facilities around the world still.
Yeah. So usually the mining is not being carried out in most of the countries because it is naturally present. We cannot do anything of that. However, it is being transported very well through logistic and all, and many times there are only few companies like us. We are one of the leader not only in our country but globally. So these companies take care of the supply chain to provide this uh, to businesses around the world. And the lead acid batteries might be there in some pockets, some part of certain countries. But I don't think it should be a very big problem, because if you are not having mining in our own country, because anyways we can't have it. Even most of the countries will not have this lead acid batteries. They'll not have that lead as well for the mining. We can even compare this to uh, uh, porters. We have something called demand factors, factor conditions, support industries. So countries which might have it, it will be easier for them. They'll have certain advantage. For example, we have seen that in Germany, it is considered that they have very good deposit of the lithium, but still they have not mined it yet. And Germany is already very good in engineering. They are doing a lot of research on batteries, so they will have an upper hand, an advantage in this. And considering this industry, the government has a lot of power, and we need government support, because it is very expensive to do mining. Then we have a lot of legal concerns. We need licenses, and it's almost impossible to work without the support of the local government. Again, there is a scenario. It's rare, but government can take over the mines. They can nationalize it. That is also one scenario we have to think of. Yeah, so use of lithium, as we can see, it is dominated by the batteries. In batteries also, we can subdivide what type of batteries. Like they have given, the majority of them is coming because of electric vehicles. However, in November exam, we have 2 questions out of 3 that says that there is a small demand, small reduction in demand for the electric batteries. Why? Because the EV market is going down. Here we are just talking about positive, but the question was in a negative sense. So this can come up. It's very rare the same scenario will come for you guys in February. However, it might be, they might just put in a different way. It was a question focused on how to manage a short-term challenge, because in the long term we know there's a good component, growth rate for the lithium and ultimately the electric vehicles batteries. But in the short term, we are facing certain issue that may be due to geopolitical things happening globally. The best thing we can do to cater that, in fact, I have discussed that in the previous class, and now also we are discussing. When I say that we have to go with the different thing, like we don't need to depend on batteries and pharmaceuticals and lubricants only, we have to find new ways. That is one thing. Secondly, we can go into manufacturing. So what will happen if we do that? Overall, our risk will reduce. If tomorrow the demand for batteries or electric vehicle goes down, we still have other products, lubricant, glass, pharmaceuticals, and we can find a lot of other options. So what will happen? We'll diversify our sources of revenue, and the risk is less. So if this question comes up to you again, the probability is low, but maybe in a different scenario. So we have to look at it from risk perspective also. It's a business risk for us altogether. It's not just a product risk. It can be a risk for survival. Usually when businesses grows and they are there for decades, once they listed, they want to become a conglomerate. What is a conglomerate? A business wants to be in a different industry. For example, we can talk about Tata Group. We have Virgin in UK. A lot of big companies. If they're into manufacturing, they'll go into service. If they're into one industry, they want to go to 2, 3, 4 different industries. And most of the companies, they'll try to be in at least one industry which is, is not affected by economic. Let's say recession is happening or economic boom is happening, especially in the recession. They don't want their business to get affected. So if you want to build a recession-free business, maybe we can go into healthcare, we can go into education, we can go into basic necessities, food, clothing, these kind of businesses, this kind of industries. Overall, it will be a risk management for us. Or certain businesses, what they can do within the supply chain, they want to control more of a supply chain, like in this case. If you take up batteries, or if you start making our own vehicles, or not just electric vehicles, batteries are used in so many other things, we can start manufacturing that. You can just manufacture laptops, it's not that difficult. Just need to get a hardware in place, then we can tie up for the software with certain companies, build in certain features. That's it. It's not a big thing. Or we can just do our brand stretch. We can just outsource the manufacturing. There are a lot of brands who have outsourced the manufacturing. They have marketing, sales, and R&D in-house. The rest all is outsourced, and they're doing good. So we have to think from so many angles. Is it making sense? Are you able to connect?
Yeah.
Great. We can just talk for hours on that, but I'm just trying to give you the start. So later on, when you just come back to revise, you have to, continue that. You have to think from so many angles. Don't just think like you are a senior finance manager, it's only numbers. I would say think like you are the CEO, you are the chair of the company. It's 100% your responsibility, because they will not ask questions only from the finance perspective. Maybe in the real world, a senior finance manager will not do more than that, more than finance. But here, expectation is too much. They will ask you question on HR, which maybe we don't need to do in the real world. They'll ask question on cyber security. They'll ask questions on retention of the employees. They'll ask question on how to manage relationship with the government, other stakeholders. Almost everything a business can face at a strategic level, they'll ask you. So we have to go beyond our traditional work. Okay. Lithium deposit can be found in many locations around the world. It is also present in seawater. So usually it is in the land or water. All the extraction from seawater requires too much energy to be commercially viable. Three main methods of lithium extraction are in common use. So basically, one challenge our industry is facing. We'll read this, but I'll just give a quick hint of that. People are moving to electric vehicles and companies are selling in a way that this is environmental friendly. However, according to research, what has been happened is when we are doing mining, when we are manufacturing batteries, there is enough pollution, or there is so much pollution, which is even more than using a traditional petrol or diesel vehicle. The only thing is that is happening behind the scenes. And same thing was true for, it's true for the glasses as well. When you're manufacturing glass, double glazed glass, temperature control, all of this. So this is a challenge for the industry. So we have to see what can be an alternative source of mining which is environmental friendly. But the problem is, usually if something is environmental friendly, the cost will go up. Therefore, they have mentioned, it's not commercially viable. So we have to see how we can find that. Okay, so let's see. The best part is they have given this thing, so we can see what is the approximate market share of each. So hard rock mines. Usually hard rock mines, when we say that it is the majority of that is done through hard rock mines, the primary reason should be this is because of the cost. Simple as that. Then traditional brine mines, then direct lithium extraction. These are the three major methods. But if you do some research online, they might even give us some subdivision of that. Some things which are, even an improvement of direct lithium extraction. Possible. So if you find that is useful, we can even put that in the answer. We don't have to limit to that. As I just said, it's about the industry, not what our business is doing. So we can say there is a new methods coming up. However, one answer is always true is we can do our own research. I mean, we can have a dedicated R&D team who should find out what are the best method of mining the lithium in a way which is environmental friendly and commercially viable as well. Lithium is contained in a number of different rock types. I'll share a video also for you guys so you'll understand in a better way. They won't ask you in the exam exactly how the mining is done and all. No. But we just have to see from a perspective of environment, for the perspective of risk, then the financial aspect, like that. So, this is completely open and requires a lot of infrastructure, as we can see. And when we are doing something serious like this, there is one risk which is coming up, that is health and safety. if some of our employees are not serious or they are not being trained properly, easily they can get injured. Lithium is contain a number of different rock types. Most lithium in spodumene, which is an ore that can be mined in several parts of the world. Lithium can constitute up to 8% of the content in the spodumene. So the challenge here is, even if we are mining, it is only 8% lithium. So 92% is so-called waste. So another option we can do is, within this mining, to make it environmental friendly, we should try to use that 92% in different ways. Let's say 8% lithium is used in this. Okay, we might have sodium and other components. Why can't we use that components, and why can't we have some manufacture for that, or why can't we market that usage? So what will happen, our revenue will also increase, we'll have less waste, and at the same time it is more economically viable for us. If you're mining so deep and you're just getting 8% of that, then we have to take care of the 92%. We have to maybe put it back, but again that's a cost. Hard rock deposit of lithium are mined mainly by the open pit method. So usually, if we are using open pit method, so what will happen, we cannot expect a society or community living just nearby this, or even just 1-2 miles from here. It's very difficult because of the amount of pollution it will do. Blocks of rock containing lithium are dug out of the earth. They are then crushed and milled to create a fine powder. A lot of dust will come on. The powdered rock is mixed with water, and again we need a lot of water. There is another challenge. So one of the reason why we cannot have a good number of communities living here, because of the requirement of water. Usually a lot of groundwater will be taken away by our business. This can also be a challenge. Bubbles of air are injected into the mixture. The bubbles attract lithium while they rise to the water surface. The resulting foam is skimmed off and sent to a plant where it is processed to produce lithium carbonate. It's just simple process. We don't need to go anything in deep. What are the how the chemicals are working and everything. It's not required. Open pit mining has significant adverse environmental impact. So we have to find a solution. First is soil erosion. How we can manage soil erosion? As we can see, a lot of things. And even if we are just, we have done here, now we'll go to the next place, then to the next place. So obviously we cannot imagine somebody just doing farming here, or we are planting trees. Obviously the soil is not, supporting all of that. Destruction of natural habitats. If you have some trees already and the nearby areas, obviously it's not only the human beings but the other animals and everybody will get affected. Water pollution. We're using a lot of water, and obviously the wastewater we are putting it back. How we are recycling, a lot of things will come up. Emission from the operation of heavy mining equipment. So these machines, we can imagine how much fuel it will use and what kind of pollution they will be doing. And usually these things keep on working for if not 24 hours, at least 18 hours, 20 hours, the maximum they can utilize. Many a times these machines are not owned by us. They have not mentioned in the Preseen is Rotomyne owning this. Sometime we have leased it, or it is on kind of just operating lease kind of rentals. Again, that's an expense. So a lot of things can come up, and obviously it depends on which country we are. Let's say we are mining in a developed country, the rules and regulations will be very strict. Though we are based in a developed country, let's say we are mining in an underdeveloped country, so they might have unemployment issues and other issues. So health and safety regulations and environmental regulations will not be that strict. Still, we might have to do the best. Why? Because if we don't do it, it will affect our reputation in other countries also. Then emissions from the operation of heavy mining equipment we have seen. Next one is traditional brine mines. Any questions or patience here? Or you can just think of it. Then once we have discussed all three, I'll come back to you. Maybe we can think like what can be the alternatives, or what uh, Rotomyne can prioritize. Second one is traditional brine mines. So this is the second one. Usually it is kind of a natural process. It will take very long time. Okay, lithium can be found dissolved in underground lakes. That lithium can be extracted by pumping this fluid called brine to the surface, where it is transferred to evaporation pond. The evaporation ponds are huge. The surface areas of 25 square kilometers. You can imagine how big the land is. The brine is exposed to heat and sunlight for 12 to 18 months. Such a long process, causing evaporation and thereby concentrating the lithium. So what is happening 12 to 18 months? Let's say we have to supply lithium now and we are using this method. We can never do it immediately. We have to do almost 1 year and 1.5 years, 18 months. So what will happen? The demand will go up and down. It will affect the price. A lot of financial risk is also coming up. So we might have to use hedging techniques to, maintain the prices, because the price will not always be the same. And at the same time, we can understand that there is lot of working capital required here. You have to maintain this facility for 18 months, and it might be a continuous process. And again, here by the look of it also, we can understand water is being used in a very big scale. So water pollution is happening here. So environment is a challenge. The concentrated brine is further processed using chemical process to extract the lithium, initially in the form of lithium carbonate. However, one thing is better here compared to previous one. We don't have that 92% waste coming up here. There might be some waste, but not that big. Brine mining is cheaper than alternative methods, but it can cause environmental damage. Each ton of lithium requires 500,000 liters of water to process. Can you imagine? So it becomes, this will become almost impossible for us to do the mining in the areas, especially where the water is difficult. Because if as a business we are using so much of water, the local community will get affected. They will not have water for drinking and other purposes. And a lot of this is just evaporated. You cannot just recycle. We are not saving it. That is particular problem when mines are located in areas that have limited water supplies. Evaporation ponds can also pollute local water supplies. That is a risk. The brine can leak into the earth and contaminate water that would otherwise be used for human consumptions or agriculture. So for a business, it is good, but for the community and our, if you look from the ecosystem perspective or stakeholder perspective, it is a challenge. And the problem is, we cannot just choose, okay, we'll go this area because the water is good or the quantity of water is very high here. The problem is, we have to find. It's not that in every water will get the lithium, isn't it? We have to do a lot of research, and it might be very rarely available throughout the world. So we need geologists, we need support from the team, then the legal aspect. So many things come up. And the biggest problem here we can see is about the time, 12 to 18 months. The entire things will change in a year's time. Especially now the businesses have become very dynamic and things are changing faster than ever. Yes, Vishal.
I think one important factor could be that finding a place for such mining I think methodology will be difficult because you are excluding the human sort of place where you need to do this. So the water is contaminated. Neither it's good for agriculture. So the agriculture business is impacted. Your local setup is gone out, right? Because the water is short or will be short, right? Or contaminated. So I think potential challenge could be that finding a place where this can be set up.
Right.
And then getting the approvals around it, because it is not just setting this up, you are actually losing something else, maybe agriculture side of the business, right? So government and taking the license of this mining will also be a challenge in itself, because there will be repercussions, right? And then there's a lot of opportunity cost around it.
Yeah. Therefore, we are discussing that government should be, work as a partner with us. Or if not partner, we should have a very good relationship with them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be a big challenge. I mean, challenge is it will have a business risk direct. We cannot operate. It's a very complex business.
And what about the weather conditions, right? It also says that you have to keep this under the sunlight for 12 to 18 months. What if the weather is not congenial? Then your the lead time will be longer than what we said, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And this is natural, we can't control natural weather. It's not we are putting in some factories and all. So if you look at it at a industry perspective, but still it is being used. It has like 30%, we can say. We don't know exactly how much, but let's say 30%, around 30, 35. Maybe because of the cost, still companies want to use it. So we have to look at the risk and returns. And if you move to the third one, DLE, direct lithium extraction, reduces the environmental impact of lithium extractions by pumping brine to the surface, where it is processed to remove the lithium before returning the brine to its underground source. This is the similar way compared to the first one, but we are not, kind of taking out everything. We'll just extract something with a kind of pipe, specifically like this. So the best advantage is the environmental part. However, the biggest disadvantage is, therefore, this is minimum in the pie chart also, the cost. From here, we are getting brine extracted, then we are just re-injecting there and there, simple. Then we have lithium processing and storage. The process is simple and it is very quick. We don't need to wait 12 to 18 months. And obviously, we are not using a lot of water as well. And compared to both, we don't have a lot of pollution. We don't need a lot of space. Ideally, this should be used by Rotomyne. However, we cannot do this at a very big cost, because ultimately we are for profit business. We have ethical responsibility, a legal responsibility towards the shareholder. But maybe this is the future. This may be the future of mining, isn't it? The only thing is how we can reduce the cost, how we can reduce this. What happens when something is done in a very big scale, the cost can come down, or maybe there's a new innovation coming up. Again, I mean, they are not given, but if we just break it down, let's say brine extraction or lithium extraction, whatever, they have not given detail, but imagine whatever the process is involved here. So if we just find something, a new engineering things come up, or a new better way of energy utilization come up, so a lot of cost can be saved. They can do a breakup and they can see what is the major cost of this and what replacement we have. And this can be done at a industry level. It should not be just for a rotomine, you know. For example, now we have seen that machines what they were doing in the first one. So we are not the one manufacturing this kind of machines. So companies like this, let's say ABB is manufacturing this. I'm just giving an example. So ABB need to find out the solutions, because they are also indirectly losing the business because it is not good for the environment. Let's say they have also come up with the DLE method. So it's their responsibility also, or we can do a strategic partnership with those companies and we can give them business, we can support them, and ultimately work for an alternative things which is same of effectiveness in environmental thing, but the cost is not that high. The process is essentially an alternative to traditional brine mines. It is more expensive, but it avoids environmental damage associated with storing brine in evaporation pods. It also use solvents to extract the lithium from the brine, so the extraction plant use much less fresh water. Water is also saved, pollution is also less. Some underground reservoirs are heated by geological process to a temperature of up to 50 degrees centigrade. Liquid at that temperature can power thermoelectric generations, which would enable a DLE plant to be self-sufficient in terms of power and to operate without carbon emission. So even they are not taking a lot of power, it is self-sufficient. Very few underground brine deposits are hot enough to be viable producers of geothermal electricity. None are presently being used to generate electricity on commercial ways. If we do it at a big level and we have some energy being saved, we can even sell this electricity. That can be different source. But again, that is not being done now. So anyway, so we have got 3 different types of mining options, and I hope you have got an idea how it works. Obviously, we don't need to go in detail of that, but basic idea is enough. Like you should know what are the risk involved, should know what are the cost involved. I mean, in comparison, which one is the most expensive, least expensive, and how we can manage that. The biggest risk we have seen is two big risks. One is environment, second is the financial part, the cost part. We just quickly look at the numbers. The 3 methods of extracting lithium have significantly different environmental impact. If you look at hard rock mining, carbon dioxide emission per ton is 15,000 kg. Here is just 5,000. Powered by electricity, so emission depends on power source. It can be even very, very less. Then freshwater use 170,000, 500,000, too high, isn't it? 3,000 liters. Look, if you compare this 170 and 3,000, you can just see how many times it is. I just divide quickly. It is like 57 times, almost 57 times more water. Right?
Yes.
Yes, Vishal, you want to add something?
So I just want to understand. We noticed daily is the most costly one. If you're using less of everything, like water use is less, land use is less. How it is costly? The extraction portion is costly because electricity is also less.
Maybe the process, the setup is costly, the machinery is costly, the people required to handle that is costly.
Maybe experts would
Technology.
use. So technology might play a big role because the resources are cheap here, right? So it's electricity, water, land.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying. We should find out what are the major cost drivers here, why it is so expensive. Or maybe we
Mm.
don't have a lot of enough companies who are supporting in that. Maybe the industry in specific that is not developed. So if it matures, maybe the cost can come down. Even the land utilization is so less. 1 square meter for compared to 460 and 3,200. So this is the go-to thing for us in the future. We cannot recommend something immediately because already the financial condition of our business is not good. Ultimately, we have to think for profit. The above figures are indicative but are also affected by specific circumstances such as the locations of the mines, the purity and chemical composition of the ore or brine, and the required purity of the end products that is being extracted. All three methods yield lithium carbonate as the initial product that can be further processed to create lithium hydroxide, lithium chloride. So obviously we can utilize in a different way. Lithium carbonate is the most common product in manufacturing, but other products are also used in manufacturing of advanced batteries and in some other industrial processes. So one good way, as we discussed in the start, is we have to find different use of lithium. That is the easiest way for us to improve the revenue. Lithium carbonate can also be processed into lithium, which has a power of applications ranging from the production of synthetic rubber to pharmaceuticals. Usually, pharmaceuticals can give us a very sustained level of business, a sustained level of revenue, because that business also grow. Yes, Rajan.
Going back to that, comparing, the methods.
Yeah.
Um, can they ask question based on that? Because if DLE is the most efficient method, even though if it is expensive now, is it because it's eliminating that 12 to 18 months of evaporation ponds process? And I think on the DLE, it says that it can directly extract lithium by pumping, the brine to the surface. And
Yeah.
I think in the earlier process, you had to pump the fluid and then transfer to the ponds and then leave it for 12 to 18 months. Is that why it is expensive? Because it's eliminating that time and then giving you more ready-made product with initial pump. Can they ask questions saying, okay, if they want to go to DLE, would it be more of a funding issue for the Rotomyne or?
Right. So basically, the simple answer to that question is yes. They will ask, they can ask a question on that. And secondly, they can link it to finance, as you just said, how much finance we need. They can also link it to the environment. Shall we prioritize the profit or shall we prioritize the environmental impact? Or they can just link this to stakeholder management. Because if you want to get the confidence of the government, we might have to,
Yeah.
go for the expensive one.
Because I think even though there is, less impact or high impact, all three methods, they will have some, issues in relation to sustainability and environmental. Is it not just a matter of which one is a little bit better, and if you can convince the government of the country where you're operating?
Yes. I have a quick video on DLE. If you guys are okay, I'll show you now. You'll get better idea. And it is a little bit about other two methods also. Just give me 1 second. This is one of the very good one to understand.
Vehicle batteries. And while lithium is commonly mined, the world contains vast quantities of lithium, an integral element in electric vehicle batteries.
I hope you can hear the audio, right?
Yes.
And while lithium is commonly mined from hard rock, the majority of the world's lithium reserves are actually found in brine, extremely salty water beneath the Earth's surface. Extracting this metal involves evaporating the brine in massive pools, leaving behind high concentrations of lithium. It takes up vast swaths of land, is inefficient, often controversial, and ecologically disruptive. But until recently, there hasn't been much pressure to change.
There was no EV revolution happening, so there was no reason for people to innovate.
But as automakers around the world struggle to meet extraordinarily ambitious electric vehicle production targets, there's a growing interest in doing things differently.
The auto industry requires a 20x increase in lithium supply, and there's just no way to achieve that type of growth with conventional technologies.
Now, many are looking towards a suite of new, but largely unproven technologies called direct lithium extraction, which promise to increase the efficiency and decrease the negative externalities of the brine mining process, while jumpstarting the domestic lithium mining market.
Direct lithium extraction will unlock the resources that are in the United States and allow it to participate as part of the supply chain for batteries.
North American companies like Lilac Solutions, EnergyX, and Standard Lithium are looking into DLE opportunities in places like Arkansas, California's Salton Sea, and Utah's Great Salt Lake, as well as abroad in Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia. The Chilean government has even announced that all new lithium projects in the country will be required to utilize DLE technology.
So the timing is right and ripe for this to see the light of day very, very soon.
For all of its recent buzz, research into direct lithium extraction from seawater and other solutions actually began in the 1970s. But back then, traditional methods of brine mining and hard rock mining more than sufficed.
The world didn't need DLE for the last 50 years. Lithium's primary use was industrial, ceramics, glass, and lubricants.
But with demand for EVs and lithium-ion batteries booming, now there's a supply crunch.
Now, over the last 10 years, 90% of new lithium production has come from hard rock projects. But hard rock projects are increasingly expensive, and if you add up all the hard rock projects, there's just not enough resource out there to meet automaker goals. It's the brine resources that are large enough to electrify the vehicle industry.
But the limitations of traditional brine mining are clear.
So when I first learned about evaporation ponds, you can immediately see the inefficiencies. One, it takes up a huge land area, right? Some of these ponds in Chile are 10 square miles. Number two, it takes a really long time for the brine to go through the pond sequence. So you're looking at about 18 months of lead time that it takes to produce the lithium out of the back end. And number three is that they have really low recovery rates, only 30 to 40% recovery rate.
Instead of concentrating lithium by evaporating brine in large pools, with direct lithium extraction, the brine is pulled directly into a processing unit, where it's put through a series of chemical processes to separate the lithium before being re-injected back underground. Refined, battery-grade lithium carbonate or hydroxide can be produced in a matter of hours, without the need to transport concentrated brine to a separate processing facility. And unlike evaporation ponds, DLE technologies have the potential to recover the vast majority of the lithium.
So when you apply these technologies, the sort of headline expectations are somewhere between 70 to 90% yields, which has a very, very significant impact on both the cost of production and ultimately the level of output and the lithium units that enter this market.
But as a number of new companies jump into this space and test out novel technologies across a variety of brine conditions, questions remain about how well some of these new approaches will scale. While there are a variety of approaches to direct lithium extraction, the oldest and only commercially proven method involves using adsorbents. In this process, lithium molecules in the brine adhere to the adsorbents and are thereby selectively removed from surrounding impurities. This is the method used by Livent, a Philadelphia-based supplier for Tesla and BMW that's operated a DLE facility in Argentina since 1998. But the company still uses evaporation ponds as a part of its process too. And experts say that adsorption-based technologies use a lot of fresh water, a big problem considering many of the world's best brine resources are in arid areas that can't afford to adopt more water-intensive tech.
So, for example, sorption. That requires fresh water as part of that stripping process once the lithium has been selectively removed from the brine itself.
According to Livent's most recent sustainability report, it used 71.4 metric tons of freshwater per metric ton of lithium carbonate equivalent, or LCE, produced. Lilac reported that in pilot testing, it uses between 10 and 20 metric tons of freshwater, while EnergyX says that it uses less than 20 metric tons. Sunresin, a Chinese DLE technology provider, also uses adsorption as its primary technology. Every significant new lithium brine operation to come online in the past 5 years has been in China, and Sunresin's DLE tech is behind a lot of them.
2019, our first unit started, and they have been since then operating without interruption, and we have a very strong industrial track record in that area, which is globally quite unique.
Sunresin's commercial operations are primarily brownfield projects, in which lithium is extracted from the waste brines of existing evaporation ponds, which were built to produce potash salts that are used in fertilizers. That means that the lithium-containing brine is pre-concentrated in evaporation ponds before it goes through Sunresin's DLE process. Though the company says that this step is ultimately not necessary, and that most of its newer projects will not be tied to potash operations and will operate without ponds.
But all over the world, any person who has a resource is talking with us. And we have literally tested between 500 and 1,000 different brines from all over the world, in the US, in Argentina, in Chile, in Bolivia, everywhere.
Total lithium production from DLE was 54,500 metric tons last year, representing 7% of overall lithium production. This mainly comes from Livent and Sunresin's tech.
This is exactly the same what they have given, 60, 32, 7.
But a host of other companies have new projects in the works and are testing out alternative technologies which they say will not only eliminate evaporation ponds altogether, but increase yields while lowering energy and freshwater requirements, hopefully helping to bring DLE into the mainstream. For its part, Bay Area-based Lilac Solutions is using a technology called ion exchange. It's currently piloting its tech in Argentina in partnership with Australian lithium company Lake Resources.
Every ion exchange process is based on a small bead, which is selective for certain metals. And with the Lilac ion exchange bead, we've developed a ceramic material. This ceramic selectively absorbs lithium from the brine while releasing a proton. Once the lithium is absorbed, we then flush the lithium out of the bead using dilute acid. And that produces a lithium chloride concentrate, which can be easily processed into battery-grade chemicals.
Lilac expects to have its first commercial-scale module operating before the end of 2024. The company is backed by BMW and the Bill Gates Fund Breakthrough Energy Ventures, and Ford has signed a non-binding agreement to buy lithium from its Argentina plant. Lilac also recently received a $50 million grant from the Department of Energy to build out domestic manufacturing capacity.
The Lilac technology is broadly applicable to a wide variety of different brines. This includes conventional salar-type brines like you find in Chile or Argentina or Bolivia, as well as new, more challenging brines like you would find in the US or Europe.
EnergyX, which is based out of both San Juan, Puerto Rico and Austin, Texas, started off developing membranes to filter lithium and now uses a combination of technologies. Step 1 is traditional adsorption, followed by a method known as solvent extraction, in which the concentrated brine is mixed with an organic liquid. The lithium is then transferred to the organic before it's stripped free and concentrated. Membrane filtration is the final stage, which removes all remaining impurities.
And now you have a integrated system which in 3 steps separates the lithium, purifies it, and concentrates it. So you see all these loops and synergies that come out of combining these technologies, and that is another big differentiator and what really drives the cost of the technology much lower compared to anybody else.
EnergyX says this hybrid approach drastically reduces freshwater use. It's building demonstration plants with undisclosed partners in Argentina, Chile, California, Utah, and Arkansas.
And we think that our direct lithium extraction can either complement existing ponds, because some of these companies have spent a lot of capital building the ponds, or eventually completely replace the ponds.
Egan says the company is aiming to have its first 2 demo plants up and running by the end of this year and the following 3 in 2024. Recently, the company secured $50 million in funding from GM to help scale its tech. Vancouver-based Standard Lithium also has big backers. The public company's largest investor is Koch Industries, and it's been running a demonstration plant in South Arkansas for the last 3 years, producing lithium at a pre-existing bromine plant.
We don't have to put in production or re-injection wells. We're operating on a brine processing facility that's been running for 6 decades to extract bromine.
Standard Lithium also uses both ion exchange and adsorption technologies, depending on the resource. It expects to begin construction on a commercial-scale DLE facility next year, and what could be a first for North America.
We have an opportunity as we expand from Arkansas into Texas to be the largest producing area for lithium chemicals in North America, utilizing DLE in an area that's not under water stress, that has a social license to operate. It has low-cost power and a highly skilled workforce.
We made USAA for homeowners who like being ready. That's why we have safety tips for things like fires.
Companies like Standard Lithium, which are leaning into the U.S. market, stand to benefit from Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, which ties electric vehicle subsidies to domestic sourcing of battery materials. Automakers can also receive the full EV credit if they source from countries that have free trade agreements with the U.S., like Chile, which is going all in on DLE.
All lithium production moving forward in the country will only be allowed to use direct lithium extraction. So what we have figured out and patented is how to complement our direct lithium extraction technology into their existing pond system to try to recover that remaining 60 to 70%.
Albemarle and SQM, the only 2 lithium producers in Chile, have not announced who they will be partnering with for future DLE projects. Though both companies have laid out plans to pipe desalinated water from the coast to the Atacama Desert to run DLE facilities without depleting the region's scarce freshwater resources. But that's bound to be both expensive and complex.
I mean, certainly it makes sense for an industry-leading nation like that to target the application of DLE. I think the commercial reality is going to be very, very difficult to overcome. Operating in these extreme environments is challenging. At the level of altitude, at the distances away from some of the kind of key logistics centers.
Bolivia is also looking to utilize direct lithium extraction to help unlock the country's vast but largely undeveloped lithium resources. While the country was considering technology from both EnergyX and Lilac Solutions, the government ultimately tapped a consortium of Chinese companies, led by battery giant CATL, to spearhead DLE efforts in its salt flats. CATL is the world's largest battery producer, and with this new $1 billion deal in Bolivia, the company aims to use DLE to produce 25,000 metric tons of lithium by 2024.
The process of going into first production is incredibly capital intensive. It's not the kind of core skill set of a startup to be able to develop these resources. And so we can see the opportunity for a company like CATL.
Mills says that as the market develops and the technology is proven at scale, we could start to see acquisitions in the space.
We have over 60 patents that protect the IP that we've developed over the last 4 years. So whether that makes an attractive candidate for an acquisition or a partnership, we're excited about that.
But first, these new DLE technologies need to be proven across a range of brine conditions, and there have already been some struggles. California's Salton Sea is thought to contain some of the largest lithium deposits in the world, trapped within superheated geothermal brines. Lilac was previously working on a project there, in partnership with the Australian company Controlled Thermal Resources, but had to pull out because the brine was so difficult to handle.
That brine comes out of the ground at 600 degrees Fahrenheit, 3 times the boiling point of water, and it has dissolved in it many toxic species, including lead, arsenic, and even radioactive materials. It's going to be very challenging for project developers to bring that type of project online.
While the Salton Sea remains a promising but tricky resource, DLE companies from Sunresin to Lilac are planning to bring other new projects online as soon as next year. Mills thinks that timeline is slightly optimistic, but not so far off.
You're looking at development risk of the asset itself. You're then compounding that with technology risk, this innovative application of technology. And so I think realistically, we're looking at a timeline of 2026 and beyond for real commercial volumes to impact a lot of that global production.
Snydecker says that in this decade, most new lithium supply will continue to come from hard rock projects.
But by the end of this decade, we'll see very large-scale brine projects coming online. And going out into the next decade, this technology will provide a majority of new supply.
Lithium production from DLE is projected to grow from about 54,000 metric tons today to over 647,000 metric tons by 2032. That's forecast to be worth about $21.6 billion.
Incredible growth of the DLE space. But when we place that in relative terms against the rest of the global market, that only represents around 50% of total supply. We're still going to have to rely on, traditional forms of production for the lithium units, whether it's evaporation ponds or hard rock mining.
But for all those new projects, we can expect to see less of this and more of this.
Hello?
Yeah.
I hope it gave a better idea of DLE.
Yeah.
The good part was they were comparing with the other, and the pie chart they have shown is very similar to what we have in the Preseen.
Yeah, also one thing they mentioned is how difficult it is for a startup company to break in. So if somebody wants to do a DLE as a new company, it's very difficult because of the capital investment needed.
Right. So there are a couple of things also. Like one thing they kind of conclude towards the end was until this decade, DLE will grow, but the domination will be hard rock mines. Because the companies have invested already so much in this kind of projects, in this kind of extraction methods. And till now, they have not faced much of a problem with the government or the society. But slowly this is growing. And this is not a change they can do directly. It will take time and energy. Right? So they have to depend on this. So one thing is for sure, now in 2024, when we'll be writing this, if something comes up with the mining, you can say overall the entire industry is doing hard rock mining. So if you are doing the same, we don't need to worry about it. However, going into the next decade, let's say in 2030, we have to have proper plan and DLE kind of extraction. Isn't it? What else they talk about? They also talk about that the automakers who need this batteries are also putting a lot of money for this investment, because they want to make their supply chain also environmental friendly. And eventually, if they are investing so much into this business, there is a chance they can take over, or at least they can have a joint venture or a merger. They're already doing the partnerships. What else was there? Water. For this second one also, a lot of companies are using traditional brine mines, but the challenge was usually it is located in a remote areas where it is very difficult to get the amount of water it needs. Again, if you have to do that water logistics, it will be, make it more expensive. Anything else? Vishnu, Sampath? You guys are very silent.
Yeah, I have no doubts.
Agree with you, Misbah. It makes sense.
How do you think, or what do you think about this? I mean, what's your point on that? I'm not asking about understanding, but what do you believe that shall we continue with this? We should go into DLE, looking at the other companies.
I think the DLE only contributes about like 15% of the supply. We have to rely on the traditional methods, even though we are depleting our environmental resources. But from a stakeholder perspective, we have to capitalize on the demand, upcoming demand of lithium. Maybe we have to, maybe if there is improvements in terms of DLE methods and the cost of lithium DLE extraction goes down, and we can scale up the supply. Maybe we can go about using DLE. I think, as you said, it takes up time. So for now, we have to.
Yeah. I think it is the future. DLE is the future, but I think it would be very difficult in a short-term period to transition into that, because as on the video it said, it's not about the skills and research, it's more about the capital investment. And as a company, if you want to switch over to DLE in fairly soon, then there's a huge investment that is needed. But you have to think about from company's earnings perspective, and all the other structure with the shareholder, and those kind of things will come into play as well. If there is an existing extraction system already there, like traditional brine and hard rock, why would you want to invest so much now? I know that it is a future, and then maybe like all these company like Rotomyne will go towards DLE, but because it is so expensive, maybe not yet. Maybe the slow transition would happen.
Right. We can do a parallel change kind of thing. Yeah, Vishal, you have something to add?
And adding to this, I think why do we need to feel an urgency to change, right, to a new method or a new mining extraction methodology when it is running? I think even if we have a limited capital to invest, and even if it is more. So, for example, we're not jumping into Rotomyne financials, but then I'm talking about hypothetically, if my firm is actually not cash rich, then it's a different case. But even if we have a cash rich company example, why do I even bother to change unless the market demands it to? Yeah. Even the global side of the usage of DLE is around 7 to 8%, as we have seen. I don't think so. We have to go really, off board and probably become the market challenger in itself and say that we are doing the most cost-effective one, right? While others may or may not switch, but we don't need to go and take a first mover advantage in this case when we don't need to, because the market is not pressing us to do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing I could think of, only thing, if they make any drastic change, because it is a futuristic kind of extraction method, only drastic change they might have to do is just because of the government regulation. If it is imposed saying that, okay, traditional brine mines is impacting a lot on the local ecosystem. I think on the video it says that, I think when they were doing in Chile, a lot of, I think the flamingo population, they had to move, and then there was extinct in the population as well. The population was decreased. So if something as such happen and then government drastically makes some regulations on the extraction of mining with the traditional method, then only they might have to switch it, because of because they have to do it rather than choice. So
Yeah, I think in one of the country they were mentioning the government is forcing going further. The mining should be with the DLE only. So it can become a legal thing in the future.
yeah, they might ask. I think maybe they can ask anything, right? They might test
Yeah.
saying that, okay, the new government is proposing DLE is the only method for extraction. Then you have no choice rather than answering question, giving advantage and making case for DLE, right? Compared to
Yeah.
traditional methods.
I mean, if government is coming up, government also has to consult the stakeholders involved. And, as far as we are talking from UK perspective, so we can also, lobby the government. If
Yeah,
something comes up, we can say that, this is not in the best interest of the industry, or the infrastructure and everything is not ready. However, if we see in the bigger picture, government also has interest if we have good mining facilities, because they also have their own sustainability goals. I think Europe has said by 2040 they want to be carbon neutral, if I'm correct.
yeah.
Then I think India said 2070 something. So every country is coming up with some numbers. By that they have to reduce the pollution. Definitely that will impact on the industries. They'll start with the industries which are polluting the most. They'll go with the cement manufacturer. They'll go with the airlines. They'll go for us.
Yeah.
One more thing we can look at it is when some companies who have started doing in DLE, they are filing a lot of patents. In the end, they were mentioning that they have got 70 plus patents in this. So if tomorrow Rotomyne wants to do, if we want to do that, we might have a legal issue if we try to do something they are already doing. Maybe we are not copying, that is just a standard process, but they have patented it. That might be a risk for us going forward. Though we should not move on it completely, but it should be a good idea if we start working on it at least a little bit. So it will have some, process in place. We can look at the scenarios. We can look at the resources required, and have
Yeah, I think
a
if
team
you
on.
apply also the porters, barrier to entry, say if it's a company like Rotomyne, I don't think they'll have financial issue or capital investment issue. And if they want to open a new mining in maybe say another country, getting approved from government in terms of regulations for traditional brine would be very difficult compared to getting direct lithium extraction in future, because that is more environmental friendly and sustainable. So maybe that's why there is a lot of patent that has been filed, because it is environmental friendly and low barrier to entry when it comes to setting up in a new country.
Right. Yeah, even going forward, they have not given exactly what Rotomyne percentage is coming from. So we can just assume that we are also producing in a similar. We might have certain percentage coming from this direct lithium, but majority is coming for us also in hard rock mine, and maybe some in the traditional brine mines. Simultaneously, we can also look how we can make this one more effective, hard rock mines. What we are doing with that land which is already being used. There is a lot of investment required to make it normal. We have to put in the stuff back, the things back, and we have to invest that it is not affecting the not only the societies but the natural habitat and everything. that area. Usually, this land is kind of taken on lease by the government, and once the process is done, and they don't have enough good extraction coming from there, they will just stop utilizing it. But we cannot just leave it like that. We have to just do, make it better before we leave it. And same thing with the traditional brine mines. Because of the use of water, we can recycle the water. We can see how we can have the maximum use. But the problem with recycling can be most of that can be just evaporated. We cannot just use it again. Might be a challenge. Anyways. So moving forward, you've seen the three methods. So when you are reading on your own also, please make the notes what we have discussed. Each method, what are the advantage, disadvantage of that? What can be the future strategy? Because sometimes the questions are just focused on the short term. Sometimes they're asking on the long term. So if they ask you a long-term plan for Rotomyne, we can recommend DLE method, direct lithium extraction. If they're asking what we should do in the short term, we can say we should just continue the way we are doing, and we can have a little bit of investment in the DLE. So in the long term, we are not, very new to that. We should have our presence already. Because obviously, certain companies who are taking the, first step ahead, they must be thinking to create a monopoly kind of thing when it comes here. Maybe they are spending extra now, but later on when it becomes mandatory or the society, everyone is so much interested on environmental aspect, they will charge premium to their clients. And already we have seen that, car manufacturers, they are putting in a lot of money with that company. We have heard the name of Tesla and some other companies as well. Those are putting in the funds. Okay. The same thing they are doing. It is possible to extract lithium metal from lithium carbonate. The pure metal has some industrial applications, primarily in manufacture of strong but lightweight metal alloys. So there are a lot of other things also which we can use. Aerospace we are using. Lithium is highly volatile in this form, being difficult and dangerous to handle. It can also deteriorate very quickly if not stored correctly. So there is an expense for storing also. The lithium industry has significant barriers to entry because it can be difficult to obtain access to viable sources of ore or brine. So basically, if you want to grow one thing, we have to do is through acquisition. Usually, organic will be difficult. Let's say the geologists have found a new place to do the mining. Again, the government will not just give that license to a new company. They might be looking for somebody who is experienced, somebody who's from know that area and everything. So that means the growing option in this industry is through acquisition. It's very rare that we'll do something organic. Either acquisition or either joint venture, merger, like that. And usually in any business, if we not talk about Rotomyne, usually in a normal scenario business, if we put government as a stakeholder in power and interest matrix, government has high power and low interest. Why low interest? They are not interested in how the companies are working, what strategy they are following. They are just interested if you're paying taxes, if you're doing legal things, that's it. But in this industry, they might have high interest also with the power. Maybe because of the downside of this, because of the legal requirements of that, or it's their responsibility. Or maybe in the future, governments want to own this. Governments are often reluctant to grant permission to mine for lithium because of the environmental damages associated with open pit mining and evaporation points. Open pit mining means the first one. There's a different name for that. DLE has fewer environmental concerns, but it is expensive to buy suitable sites and to build an operating processing plants. We just discussed this. This is a very important fact. The 4 largest lithium producing companies, one of which is Rotomyne, account for more than 50% of global sales of lithium by value. So we are one of the leader globally. We are not just in our country, but we are one of the leader. So assuming that, we might also have little bit of DLE already. And when we say more than 50%, let's say it is 55%. So that means 55% of global revenue, Rotomyne is one of them. So maybe we can have 15%, 13%, it's still good. So we are the first mover. Usually industry leaders are the first mover. They have to take high risk. At the same time, they'll have the higher returns. They have the good reputation. They will get first mover advantage, all of that. However, the downside of this can be, if you want to grow, especially if you are doing an acquisition or a merger in our same country, it is difficult that the government will allow us. Why? Because it can create a monopoly. Let's say we are 15% and another competitor in our country, they're also 13, 14%. So both of us can go 27%. And that is global we are talking about. Maybe in our country, we have even more percentage. However, in certain cases, if the industry is, very competitive, we need like a lot of expertise in operating that, and it is difficult that a new business can come in, like they have mentioned here. The barriers to entry is very high because government is reluctant to give permission, right? In certain cases, government will allow. However, normally according to UK corporate governance, if a company has more than 25% of market share, it is considered as a monopoly. This can be one of the challenge. Yeah, they have mentioned significant barrier to entry. Right? Yeah. So I hope this is clear. They will never ask you about how to mine. We just have to look at the environment and financial aspect of that. Okay.
Misbah, on the it's where it says it account for more than 50% of global sales of lithium by value. Could there be a case if it has a supply issue, then it can also affect global pricing of lithium as well, isn't it?
Yes. So basically, this industry works on supply and demand. In fact, every industry works, but here it is even more important because the demand is continuously increasing and we don't know about the supply. Maybe the supply is not increasing at that rate. There are two reasons why supply cannot increase very fast. First is, if you are using that drying thing, it will take 12 to 18 months. Even if you are using this open pit method, it will take some time. Right? We are not using DLE. So if we have demand now and we are getting supply after 1 year, definitely the price have to go up.
Yeah, and other problem is they have to use traditional brine compared to hard rock because brine is the cheapest option because that's more natural extraction with evaporation, isn't it? So it's less finance involved there.
Yeah, finance involved, and at the same time we are kind of settled in that. We have been using it for a while. So we have everything in place. So the next topic is just related to that. It's only the supply, demand, and how we'll manage the finances. Spot versus future markets. Most transactions involving lithium are normal commercial credit sale and purchases with price and terms of business being agreed at the time of sale. So usually it's common in B2B business that they're working on credit. They'll pay later. However, what we are agreeing is on the spot price. Spot price, what they're defining specific to the industry can be different, but if we go the meaning with the spot price or spot rate in terms of banking and other things, spot rate is something which is which is valid for 2 days. Let's say we are agreeing something on today, so the conversion rate for today and tomorrow, that is a spot rate, not beyond that, within 2 days. So that may be one way of managing the risk. However, it can be challenging if you have committed on a certain price and we ourselves has faced lower production and we cannot increase the price. That can be a challenge. So when we are doing a forward contract or any kind of contract, especially with the pricing, we need to be very, very precise. We need to consider a lot of risk. Because sometimes, our production can reduce because of like natural calamities, or we are not able to deliver, maybe because we don't have enough sunshine that year. Something happened. What we'll do? And usually, if we are not delivering on time, we are not delivering with the said time, we can have the consequences. Other than the reputation risk we'll face. This might be a big risk to manage, isn't it? And we cannot say that don't do it. If we don't do it, then we might lose business. They might go and do it with our competitors. Because the other party in our front is also other business. They need to manage their expenses, their working capital. Everyone will be looking for some kind of certainty. Isn't it? So do we need to do this hedging and all? Yes, we need to. But again, it cannot be just like the traditional what other businesses are doing. Lithium is mined and processed into compounds by mining companies. Any given compound, such as lithium carbonate, is a generic product regardless of the mine from which it was obtained or the mining company who process it. So usually there is no such quality which will make a difference. We are not a one who are creating differentiator. Like people are coming to Rotomyne for the quality of the lithium. That is not a case in most of the time. Then what it will be? What is your competitive advantage? It may be price. It may be the finance terms. It may be the support. Maybe the relation. But not the actual product. We cannot just say I'm giving a better quality. Lithium is a commodity that has an observable market. Price for the commodity itself are set by supply and demand. That means it's very fluctuating, Like I just mentioned sometime before in the previous exam, we have a question that demand has reduced for a short term. So what will happen if the demand reduce short term? The price will go down. Although selling prices on individual transaction will take account of transportation cost. Transportation is also a major expense here. They have not mentioned in the Preseen, are we doing the logistics or the our client is taking care of, or we have tied up with third party. Usually it will be third party, because and even in third party, I don't think any logistic company can just do it. They need to have the specific resources, specific fleet to carry out this. It will have a lot of compliance. There is a future derivative that allows buyers and sellers to trade in lithium hydroxide contracts. Like we can just fix up on the future. Lithium hydroxide is used primarily in the manufacture of batteries for electric vehicles. Both buyers and sellers can use this derivative to manage the risk of price movements in lithium hydroxide for the period ranging from 1 month to 15 months. For example, a car manufacturer could buy future contracts that mature in 6 months, guaranteeing the price that will be paid for lithium. We'll see this in detail when we are doing F3, but you don't need to worry specifically of this method. We can use any kind of hedging techniques which is suitable for us. But do we need to do that? I believe yes, it's very important. Lithium future contracts are cash settled. Market participants pay or receive cash to the value of the difference between the market price when the contract is closed out and the price set by contract. The derivatives enables buyers and sellers to fix price in advance. So basically, the supply and demand is the risk is being reduced by the buyer and seller. Although the pricing of the contract will reflect market expectations. How it will reflect market expectations? Let's say we have promised someone to pay, give the lithium after 1 year or after 6 months. We have some price of X today. So obviously we'll not agree on X. We'll think like, in 6 months the price might go up. We'll have data of the past. So we'll say, X plus 10%, X plus 5%. That will be the price what we'll be charging them. And maybe the buyer will also understand and they'll agree on that. And if you have agreed on 10%, maybe it has gone to 9 or 11, something closer in a normal scenario. But in a special scenario, it might have reduced to 10% also. They can be used as a part of risk management strategy, but they cannot eliminate risk altogether. Just like any other risk in the business, we cannot eliminate it. We can just mitigate it. All right. So one more thing we can do is when we are reading the Preseen, especially when you are reading, the second, third time, you can also kind of highlight the risk. So once we do P3, will be discussing it again, and simultaneously we'll come up with the management of each risk. Let's say now this is one of the risks. So what will be the management of the risk? How we can mitigate that risk? Okay.
Yeah, just one last question on this. Does the selling price includes the transportation cost? Is what we are understanding from this?
Yes, they have mentioned it should not be in certain cases, but here they have mentioned although selling price on individual transaction will take account of transportation cost. It can be subjective, but a simple answer is yes.
Yeah, which means we are also safeguarding the transportation costs, right? In a way.
Yes, kind of. Or maybe there also we are getting some business because it's not every logistic company can do this.
Yeah. Do you think that another potential opportunity, business opportunity, could be that they can get into this sort of logistics environment?
I was thinking maybe possible. We need to see in the industry what the other players are doing. Usually here the transportation for that, like finding a transportation company outside in the market will be difficult because it's not normal logistics. So there is a high probability all of this company will have their own transportation. If they have it, or majority of them have it, so we don't have a business opportunity there. If they don't have it, maybe we can do it.
Yeah.
But again, the challenge can be if we are doing it, are they ready to support us? Because we are the competitors. They might be afraid of losing the confidentiality and,
Because there are only limited players which are actually controlling the market, like the top 4.
Yes. And that too globally.
Yeah. Of which 50% is us.
We are one of the 50%.
Okay.
4 of us are 50%.
Misread it then. Give me 1 second. It's a 50%. The global sales of lithium account for more than. Is it one of the which is Rotomyne account for more than 50% of global sales of lithium? That's what I read it. Sorry.
1 second, let me go back.
And it's down. Yeah.
The 4 largest lithium producing companies, one of which is Rotomyne, there's a comma, account for more than 50% of global sales of lithium by value. So these 4 companies is accounting for more than 50%, not us alone.
Okay.
They just given a comma in between, so it's confusing. They would have written the 4 largest lithium producing companies account for 50%. Then they would have put in the last this. Mine is one of them. They have put this one in between, so it's confusing. Yeah. If we are more than 50, I don't think that there is any company because we are talking from global perspective. Maybe in the country which we are operating, we can have this level. Usually more than 25 is a problem, but when the market is, matured and everything. In this kind of industry, it's possible because government don't want to give licenses to everyone. For example, if we talk in terms of, let's say, mobile phones, smartphones, so we have Apple, Samsung, and maybe one other brand, OnePlus and Vivo, Oppo. They are like same company. So three of them can have 50-60% of the market share. Just for understanding. Yeah, so the main area of discussion today was more on the extraction method, the risk involved, the cost involved. That's what we focus. Secondly, we also saw the uses. In the video also, in between, they mentioned that how it can be used, the lithium, right? They have talked about glasses, they have talked about pharmaceuticals. So we should not undermine that, especially in pharmaceuticals. I believe we'll have a stable demand because this is a basic necessity and this will go up in healthcare industry, isn't it? So we should not undermine. Even if you're getting, let's say, 80% of our sale from batteries, we still need to take care of this 20%. Because this 20% can go to 25%. There is a high chance our competitors are also focusing only on electric vehicles, only on batteries. So we can, utilize that. Because if this goes down, we have at least some revenue coming up here to take care of the working capitals. Okay. So you can do some research. Where else can this be used? And the 92% that is being so-called waste, it's not 100% waste. We can still utilize it. So what are the components coming out of that? Then where it can be used, like sodium and all, that can be other option for us. And also we have to do some research. Okay. Then we have seen the financial part. This will discuss in financial risk. Then tomorrow's session will start with the company. So what they have mentioned, which might be true for us, or maybe it is a little bit different. Okay. We start in 1972 when we got listed. These are the things which can be very important, and some of the fact it's good to memorize it. That can be used in the answers. So we'll be doing a SWOT analysis also for the Preseen going forward. So one of the strengths we can say, we're operating from 50 years, more than 50 years, things like that. Any questions?
No. Can just I have a question on the timing for tomorrow, please. Is it possible to do it a little later, or I'm fine either way, but just checking.